Okay, we're going to have a look now at finishing the sanding on our barrel top box. So here's one that has been glued. We've used the plane to take the rough edges, most of the rough, and shape this to a fairly smooth shape. You can see we've got some glue here and we've got some filler that needs sanding. So we're going to be using a sanding block and abrasive paper. Now this abrasive paper is available in different grades, and if you look on the back, the lower the number, so here's 80, and you can see the number relates to how many kind of grains there are in a given area. So 80 you can see is quite coarse, and then 120 is finer, and then the 240 is really quite fine. So obviously we want to start off with this with the biggest lumps, the 80, because that's going to take off most. We're also going to use a cork sanding block here, and we're just going to tear off a piece of paper and wrap our abrasive paper around the cork block. And we might also use, we've got a wide chisel here. Now you can see here that there was some glue. Now this glue would have been best, this PVA glue would have been best cleaned off while it was wet, but if we very carefully use the chisel, and you've got to be very careful here, but you might find it easier to just very carefully actually scrape off some of this glue. What you've got to be careful with, because the box is made of plywood, is don't dig it in too much. Just use it very flat to scrape off the glue, which will be easier than sanding it off. So I'm going to start on here on the top, and I'm going to start on the top of my box. I've got my 80 grade paper, and I'm going to just start. You can start off by a sort of circular motion and a curved motion, and after a while you want to have a look. You can feel almost better than you can look here, and just feel any rough edges, and I can feel there's a little bit of an edge there, so I'm going to keep working at it. I'm just going to leave that and have a go here. Now here you can see we've got a lot of filler on here, and I'm going to work across the grain and round. Also, any pencil marks, take those off. Now, when you start, the grain of the wood is going along here, obviously along here, and you can see at the start I'm going across the grain, because that almost takes off more material, and especially here for the glue. I'm just going to very carefully take that glue off. Now the problem with the glue is if you leave even the faintest trace of glue like there, when you put the Danish oil on the top, that's going to show through. Now once I've got it fairly smooth, I'm going to go backwards and forwards with the grain. Then, really now, that should be, they probably could do with a little bit more filler here, but we'll leave that. And you can see that that's fairly smooth. I've taken out all the pencil marks and that, and I finished off along the grain. Now I'm going to put the 120 in, and again finishing off along the grain, and this feels much smoother to the touch now. And last of all, I'm going to use the 240, which is the finest grain. This won't take off much at all, but what it does, and finish this along the grain, and it should almost be not quite shiny, but really quite smooth now to the touch. You shouldn't be able to feel any lumps and bumps. Any little places where you might want to put extra filler in, you can. And obviously this is just a case of rubbing down, putting filler in, rubbing down, putting filler in, and then until we're ready to put our Danish oil in. So there's still quite a lot of work to go on this box, but it's one of these things, the more work you put in, the better the final box will come out. So that's using abrasive paper to get the finish on the box.